Experts. I'm Webbo Herbert, and as per usual, we're here every Tuesday evening with something that at least we think is of community interest and or of some concern. And if you think that you have something which fits into that category, you'd like to find out how you can be a part of the program, well, why don't you drop us a line, address it to the Let's Talk program in K of Vaughan Radio, P.O. Box 195, Charlestown in Nevis. So give us a call. Our numbers are 1-869-469-1616 and 01700. And by the way, those will be the numbers you'll use to be a part of this evening's discussion. Again, thank you all very much for joining us. This is your voice in the community, Talk That Get Results. With regard to your participation in the show, we encourage you to call in the numbers listed, 1-869-469-1616 and 01700. Here's a suggestion. You have a question or a comment, perhaps you can get a pencil, piece of paper, write it down so that when you're getting on the show, you're well organized and you take as little time as possible so that we can accommodate as many of you as we can. We ask only, first of all, you respect yourselves and then respect others, because we will not accept anything we deem that's not within our broadcast standards. But we encourage you to always be forceful with your point. Again, thank you all very much for joining us. Your voice in the community, Thought That Get Results. Also, you can follow us on our YouTube channel at Vaughan Radio or Facebook page at Vaughan Radio. Tonight, we're going to speak in with some folks, and I'm all excited about it, and I hope that you are excited about it as well. Let me do it this way. Glendale Herbert, good evening.
Good evening, Webbo. It's a pleasure to be here with you once more.
Okay, now I'm going to, as I said, do it this way. I'm going to let you do the rest of it and let folks know why I'm so excited. Why are we here?
We're here to discuss a project that's that have been proposed and forwarded to the government, the NIA, the Ministry of Health, and it's a program that entails basically ENT, ear, nose, and throat care service here in Nevis. I brought along here our chief collaborator, not only chief collaborator but sponsor for this project for Nevis, Mr. Todd Blum, and I'll just allow him to introduce himself to you.
Good evening. My name is Dr. Todd Blum. I am the Chief Executive Officer of ENT and Allergy Associates of Florida, and a long time visitor to the beautiful and wonderful country of Nevis. Several years ago, back in 2018, my organization, along with Starkey Hearing Technologies, offered a hearing aid mission to Nevis and St. Kitts, where we were able to help provide hearing healthcare services to people in both Nevis and St. Kitts, and I think it was very well received. We had a large number of people we were able to help here in Nevis, and it was truly wonderful to be able to help treat Nevisian friends, family, and help make a positive impact in people's lives here in Nevis. And we are looking to do the same with ear, nose, and throat medical and surgical care in collaboration between my medical practice back in Florida and the Nevis Community Foundation and the Ministry of Health here as collaborative partners.
Well, thank you, Doctor, and let me say welcome to the Let's Talk program. We do talk that get results, and when we spoke to Glendale and we found out, learned what you're going to be doing, we thought we can add a little bit to it, and we'd like to let you know here at Vaughan Radio we will try and help you as much as we can. We think, based on what we will learn, the public will learn later on, and what I've gathered before, it's a good venture, it's a good gesture for the people of Nevis, and we appreciate it, and we appreciate you being here. So what we're going to do also, first of all, let me ask you this. You like Nevis?
Do I like Nevis?
Yes.
This is my 36th visit back to Nevis this week. I have my lovely wife, Hope, who is a doctor of pharmacy. She's looking to help in any way she can as well. My 21-year-old triplets have grown up here in Nevis. We have countless number of friends who now we consider family, and we feel truly blessed to be able to provide opportunities to help the wonderful people here in Nevis in any way that we can. So thank you for having me and Glenn here as well tonight.
Did you say triplet?
Triplets.
Well, that's awesome. So congratulations
Thank
on
you.
that. And I might just add though, or say that at 36, drop off the visit pad, because after 36 it's not a visit. So it's good to have you. And again, so Glendale, give us some more details and what you.
Well,
how you came in touch with.
Todd has been my friend for a number of years, and then I approached him one day and said, why don't we try and get something going here in Nevis? He has a medical outfit. He can tell you more about it throughout in the South and Florida, where he has somewhere around 80 or 90 physicians who work for him, and in ENT, ear, nose, and throat specialty. And seeing that sort of care was absent here on the island, I said it'd be nice if we can somehow have this sort of thing done here in Nevis. So Todd said yes. He got excited. After a while, he got excited and said, "We'll do it."
Okay, you did mention the Starkey Foundation, so it is not going to be your first go around on the island.
No, sir. We back in 2018, in collaborative partnership with Starkey, local healthcare nurses, the ministry, we put on, as I said, a pretty successful opportunity to provide people both in Nevis and St. Kitts with free hearing aids, those who demonstrated a hearing loss or a need for amplification. So it went very well, and of course, Starkey, due to COVID, has had to curtail their traveling from United States to different countries in the world. So one of the things we're also looking at doing is not just providing medical and surgical ear, nose, and throat care, but also hearing health care, trying to work with Starkey to get resources to be able to provide those services again to the people here in Nevis and St. Kitts.
So, but this new venture is going to be more expansive.
Yes, it is. Starkey was limited to hearing health care and hearing aids. This would actually be screening patients for medical and surgical ear, nose, and throat problems, whether that could be people with wax in their ears, to tonsil problems, to snoring problems, to thyroid problems, head and neck cancer problems, whatever we have the ability to do with our partners in the health ministry, to provide different types of services that are needed here in Nevis.
And you're based in what state?
In Florida, in South Florida, in Palm Beach County. We have 90 physicians. We're the second largest ear, nose, and throat group in the entire United States. I am the CEO of the company, and I'm blessed to have the opportunity to work for nearly 100 of the world's best ear, nose, and throat doctors, and we're happy to come to what I consider my second home here in Nevis and help people, who don't have access to this important care.
And you have a wide range of doctors, professionals that do work with your organization, because one of the things that with healthcare, persons are very concerned about that, and they're going to be thinking about, well, how confident I'm going to be in the physicians and so on and so forth. But you have mentioned that you've got a long history.
Yes, we have physicians. Ear, nose, and throat is a type of medicine that doctors practice that has become very subspecialized. We have neuro-otologists, or doctors that provide inner ear surgery. We have different types of doctors that provide sinus type of care. We have doctors that focus on head and neck cancer surgery. And of course, we have general ear, nose, and throat doctors that help diagnose a diverse type of patients with different presenting problems, different chief complaints. They're American-trained physicians from all over the country, and our quality is really good.
And what's the procedure or the process like? Obviously, once you get organized, your folks will come, check the the facilities, etc.? What's the procedure?
That is a great question. So right now, we're still in the information gathering stage. We'll be meeting with the wonderful folks at Alexandra Hospital tomorrow, and to get a better understanding of the equipment and facilities that are here locally. We will then work to bring in what other equipment may be needed that isn't here on the ground in Nevis. And once we get that formalized, we're looking to provide 3 or 4 different episodes of care, or different dates where we come in. We'll need to evaluate patients in advance. Again, we're hoping a lot of folks here in Nevis just need to see the doctor. They won't need surgery. We're not looking to operate on every patient that comes in. We're hoping that most maybe will need medicine, or maybe will need their ears cleaned, or maybe they'll need a hearing test. But then, while we're here working on the medical care, we're going to have to identify the folks that may need surgical intervention, and we're going to need the community's help doing that. We're going to need the teachers in the schools. Maybe they have children in their classes that maybe aren't hearing as well. We're going to need the community health nurses, the hospitals, friends, families. We're really going to need the community's help in spreading the message of this great opportunity and helping identify patients. When we're here, we want to work hard. We want to work for the people of Nevis and be busy while we're here.
Okay. What's the timeline? Because I got to tell you that folks probably will get excited about it, and so they're going to be wondering, well, when is this all going to come together?
That is a wonderful question. So as I mentioned, we're in the early stages right now. We definitely want to do this, provide these services this year, in 2022. However, we're working with our partners in the health ministry. Our doctors are going to have to get certified or given permission to come help people here in Nevis. And there's a process. I wish I could tell you I'm the expert at that, my friend, but unfortunately I'm not. So we're laying the groundwork tomorrow with our visit. I would ideally like to say come early summer, we can start and visit 2-3 more times the end of this, by the end of this year to provide this care. But I wish I could give you the answer that you're looking for, but we're just starting the process, and I don't want to promise something that I can't deliver in a time.
I got that. So in essence, you would have a tentative schedule laid out. If all goes well, and based on my understanding, you're going to, in the first instance, need the cooperation of the government. How has that been so far?
It's been very, very a great experience to be working with the health ministry. We have, the Nevis Community Foundation and myself and my practice has submitted a proposal to them. The feedback we've gotten has been very, very positive. Permanent Secretary of Health, Shalisa, has been wonderful to work with. Her team has been great, and we experienced the same type of true partnership when we worked with Starkey, bringing the hearing aids here in 2018. I think that offered a great opportunity to meet people and prove that we're credible partners.
Yes.
Because again, we don't want to sit here and come and say we're going to do A, B, C, and D, and then not be able to follow through. So obviously, we're waiting for government approval, but again, it's been a great process so far in working with them.
Yes, Glendale.
Yeah, tomorrow would be the first real comprehensive meeting, and I think we'll do a walkthrough. Todd will do a walkthrough of the hospital and the equipment needed to be able to add to the equipment that's not there at the hospital. They may need things like specialized microscopes, CT scans, and sort of stuff, that sort of thing. And I must add, this whole entire care is being proposed to be free to the public from the caretakers. So it's a comprehensive project. We're just, we think everybody seems to be high on it, to be frank with you.
I think the ministry has done a great job in talking with the Permanent Secretary of Health. Doing the same type of program for eye doctors, for ophthalmologists. We're looking to provide Nevis a comprehensive solution for ear, nose, throat, hearing health care. So maybe this program, obviously we need to get it approved, but maybe this is something that can grow into a more permanent, more regular process. I have shared for the last 20 years I've been working with my physicians, my love and passion for helping the people of Nevis, and they've obviously jumped on board and are willing and are excited to come and help people.
Right. So we once you get started, and if all goes well, you're suggesting you will very much like to get going by sometimes this year, 2022.
Yes, sir.
Summer.
Summer 2022. But if it doesn't happen, but that's your aim.
We are ready to go, and I don't want to put pressure on the health ministry or anything. I'm not here to do that. What I'm saying is we, as a collaborative partner, are ready to step up and help.
Right.
I know, just like in the United States, there's a lot of processes to validate that the people coming are legitimate physicians.
Yes.
And that takes time, to validate credentials and make sure these doctors are who they say they are. So we're working, there's a process working with the Ministry of Health to get our physicians credentialed and approved to come here and help the people of Nevis.
So in essence, as any good doctor would and should do, and been trained to make sure that everything is done in proper order and people can feel confident of the process once it gets operational.
Correct. These are doctors who are performing head and neck cancer surgery or advanced ear surgery or tonsil surgery on people throughout South Florida every single day. These are actively working physicians. These are not doctors that retired 30 years ago and want to try and be nice and help but haven't seen a patient. These are hardworking men and women who are at the peak of their profession helping people, and they really understand through me, through all of the stories and just how great Nevis is. And again, if we're in the position to help people, I think, not just providing medical care, but I think all people who are in a position it's part of our responsibility to help others any way we can. And I'm just excited and blessed to have the opportunity to do that here with y'all.
To be frank and fair, sometimes our people can be doubtful as to whether or not there is an ulterior motive when people say that they come to help. But evidently you've said that you've been coming to Nevis to and fro for the past 36 years. By now you should be a citizen anyway.
Yeah, I would love to, yes.
Well, how about we work on that?
That would be great.
Okay. And so it is just your way of helping. And some people would understand. Though not everybody does that, some people do really and genuinely help. And that's where you're at.
Correct. So the physicians who would be coming to help are not just volunteering, but they're giving up their days. When you're a doctor and you're not working back home, they're not collecting money. So not only they're volunteering their time, they are not being paid to provide services for the ENTs. They can evaluate patients. This is completely genuine. And again, after 36 times coming to Nevis, there is a reason my family and I keep coming back. When you live in South Florida and you hop on a plane, you pass over a lot of different countries with beautiful beaches and great restaurants and great people. But the reason we keep coming back to Nevis is the people are wonderful. They're family. And I am blessed to have found out about Nevis almost 20 years ago, and that's why my family and I can, keep coming back. And if we can just do a little bit to help people for nothing in return, I've always said to my family and my children, if you want to feel good about yourself, help somebody else.
Help somebody.
And that's what we try and live our lives by. And I wish, around the world with all the problems we're having in this world, if everyone had that approach, maybe the world would be different.
I think so too.
Yeah.
Glendale, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, so the idea basically is to do this 3 times a year, 2 weeks each time, bringing in the physicians and have them stay here. All expenses paid. And, basically to meet the needs of the community at a very high level. That's basically what it is.
Okay. So Todd, it's so good to have you. If I can be presumptive enough and say on behalf of the folks on Nevis, the rest of us, we're hoping that everything goes well, and we want to let you know and your doctors that we're appreciative of the gesture. If we can do anything else, you let us know.
That would be amazing, and of course, we notifying, once we get approved and we start implementing the program, the most important thing is letting divisions know we're here to help and spreading the word and working with our partners here in Nevis. That would be an amazing opportunity and blessing, so thank you.
Right, and once we get going and you're here, always feel free to come and talk with us, right? It's easy to talk with us, right?
Very easy,
Okay.
yes.
So again, thank you all very much for coming. Is there anything else you'd like to say?
Thank you again.
Thank you.
For allowing us to participate in your program tonight, so thank you so much.
Okay, well, best of luck as you go through. You said you're going to do some walkthrough tomorrow, get some preliminary information and so on, and everything goes well, you come right back here and you tell us how things are going.
That would be fantastic, my friend.
All right, have a good evening. And
Thank you
thanks.
so much.
This is Talk That Get Results. I'm Webbo Herbert. We'll be back with our second segment right after this.
Builder's Paradise is offering a large variety of floor and wall tiles at very competitive prices. Builder's Paradise has over 2 million pieces in stock, lots of different styles to choose from. Whether you're renovating or tiling a new house, Builder's Paradise has what you need. Wow! Oh, and remember, we're open all day Saturday to serve you better. This is something that you can't refuse. Visit Builder's Paradise today at the C.A. Paul Southwell Industrial Site in St. Kitts or call them at 466-4938.
Back in this episode of Talk That Get Results, our first segment with Dr. Todd Bloom of the United States, and they're trying to organize an ear, nose, and throat ENT program here on Nevis. They get on the ball tomorrow as they do their walkthrough, hoping if it comes to well, it'll benefit the people of Nevis. We'll hear more about that. We'll begin with our second segment in just a second. Conrad Nile Library, good evening.
Good evening, Webbo, and good evening to your hard-working staff here at One Radio. Once again, Webbo, we gathered to discuss the issues affecting the people. And without further ado, I want to say thank you once again for having me, Webbo.
Dr. Patricia Bartlett, good evening.
Good evening, Webbo, and good evening to Nayan. Good evening to the entire listening and viewing audiences. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Okay, now we had a first segment. Don't know how much of it you heard, but seemingly it's a program that they're trying to get developed on the island of Nevis. It is seemingly going to be similar to the I program, which I believe most people know of already, but this will involve ear, nose, and throat. Herein, I spoke with Mr. Herbert, Glendale, and Dr. Todd just a few moments ago, and what they pointed out was, I don't know how many of you were aware of the hearing aid program that they had, especially in the schools. Starkey Foundation, they came and went around and tested the children's hearing and assisted them. And he was saying that his group was a part of that. They assisted as well, and they thought that based on the needs of folks on the island, they probably can expand it. They've got about almost 100 doctors in South Florida, work all across the United States and so on. He is the head of the company, and so they're getting themselves sorted out. They have a timeline, proposed timeline, so that if they get sorted out, they can get things started by summer. So thought that was interesting. The good thing about it, though, I don't know if I should say this, but the good thing about it is that we were able to talk with them. Because sometimes when the politicians do it first, people get more skeptical, right? So we were glad that we were able to talk to them. And I saw the proposal as well. And it is not totally done yet, but it is the work that's in progress. Okay. So did anybody get a chance to listen? Any of it?
I listened to the portion of it, yes.
Mm-hmm.
I listened in a little late.
No, I missed it.
Yeah, okay.
Completely.
Well, they did promise that as they go and do the updates and stuff like that, I gave them an open invitation, can come right back and let us know what is happening. But seems pretty good. It will be perhaps a good, addition to the health care system on the island, because not just Nevis but St. Kitts in terms of ENT. Sometimes you get somebody to come in every now and then, and maybe most folks are going to like the wing of this. They said it's free. It's going to be free, just like the eye care program. So. Okay, so I just wanted to mention that, see whether or not.
Well, I think it's a great thing, It's a very good thing, because sometimes we do overlook hearing and the difficulties of hearing. To be quite honest with you, I do link with people who have hearing difficulties. And I must say to you, I myself is not 100%. And but I would like to say, when it's not if it's severe and it's not discovered very early, it can bring serious drawback to a young one, a little kid going forward, not being able to hear properly. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it takes a while before the real cause of him or her not doing well in school is not discovered very early. Trust me, I am very close to a family member who suffered that severely, and basically she just falls short of what can I say, her achievements coming through. Again, there was a big stigma about hearing aids, the physical look of hearing aids, and that is something is not very common around here at all. But I can tell you, to get abreast with hearing problems in Nevis, it's very major, to be quite honest with you, because when you can't hear, it's a very difficult thing. It's almost, you get left out, really, especially if you're that young and not being able to communicate with your mom or your dad or the teacher. These things are very important, especially in the very young ones. Hearing, very seriously. As I said to you, Webbo, I know a family member who suffers that in a serious way. And I myself have lost some of my hearing. I've done a test and they tell me yes. And I do suffer from it sometimes.
And one of the things that he mentioned, because in other areas we have routine testing and checks that are available, but not so much in that. And one of the things that he mentioned, he said, even if it's just getting the wax out of your ear, they do the the basic, and he made a quick appeal, and he says that when they get going, they're going to count on the whole community to assist them as well. as you mentioned, Naya, there might be somebody who you might figure they may have a difficulty or there might be something there.
Yeah.
So get it to them, let them know, and they can check it out, and as you said, can save something going down the road. And so from that basic to, he says that the sinuses, because a lot of folks have problems with that as well, and they can do the surgeries and all that.
Good thing, Webbo.
Yes, I think it is. What's important, though, and Naya made an allusion to that, is the early intervention. You have to be able to pick up some things early in order to be able to have a better quality of life for some people. And sometimes, and I agree with Naya, we go through life sometimes not knowing what the fundamental problem is. Yes, our child can't read, but he had never been exposed to screening to see if it is that he couldn't hear or whatever the issue might have been. It might have been as simple as that he couldn't hear properly, and so he gets left out and people call him dumb, and and so it is important. And I welcome the screening. Screening, I think, is very important. And so it would be good if we could have that as part of our healthcare system going forward, that you have periodic screenings. I'm not trying to suggest that you should always bring in this kind of expertise and then suppress the expertise that you might have had, or the specialists in those areas around here then can't be able to afford to to practice because sometimes that happens. So there ought to be a balance, though. You have to take these things into consideration. I know that I'm not aware that we have specialists in that area here, but I think that it's about time that we start to develop our own specialists, that we don't always have to depend on the good graces of someone else. But as we move forward, as we develop our healthcare system, we need to recognize that these are some specialists that we need if we have a society that is progressing. We can't be always getting people just so sorry for us to come to help us out. We have to have a plan in place so that 10 years from now, we must have a plan. 10 years from now, we have specialists in these particular areas and not always be reacting. So that is the only observation I would like to make.
I said, and I gave a commitment to the gentleman publicly, and intentionally said it, that if they think that they need our help, let us know. Because, I find that too many times that we get something going and somebody has something to say or to do to block it, right? And we get bogged down in whatever machinations there is, right? I got the information, I saw the information, and I thought this can be something good for the island. Where it will end, I don't know. So, and I also said at the end of the middle interview that we had, again, maybe I don't know if I should have said it, but it was good that they talk with us, and we,
it was good.
Because sometimes people think that when certain other groups bring certain messages, so I hope that everybody might embrace it for what it is, and I'll send us out a little note that I'm working with them, and when I work hard, including against those naysayers. So I'm on board with them. So I don't know how people will interpret that, because sometimes folks say that I don't talk straight. But a friend of mine said, do not worry about Webbo. If he says something and you don't understand it, just go home, sleep, think on it, and eventually you will. As Edric W. Stanley was, that guy is in my brain so much. Are you following me? Okay. All right, what else we got?
Well, an issue came to my desk, if I may use that language, following the guy who can't get out of your brain. But someone called me yesterday about a perennial issue this is an issue about dogs attacking animals and wiping out the livelihood of some people. And this is a problem that we have struggled with now for years. And it's just not fair. We need to, at some point, have a resolution that makes sense. I know a couple of years ago, some work was done on the Act, dog control. And in it, I didn't think necessarily that the focus was enough on fixing the problem or addressing the problem that our farmers, were facing. It had more to do, I think, with trying to curb the unpleasant practice that some young people would have been engaging in terms of fighting dogs and keeping, vicious dogs around. And so much of the effort would have been into trying to control that element and not necessarily to address the problem that the farmers were having in terms of being compensated for their losses when dogs would have wiped them out. I would have proposed, and I would propose it again tonight. I know generally they didn't want to listen to me for whatever reason. We had difficulties connecting with women, it seems. But I would have proposed that we set up a fund which would have been paid for out of the licensing fees that people had to, pay in order to keep dogs. Because we know that traditionally you had to license your dog, and it used to cost like, I think, $2.50, Obviously, over time, it would have been revised, and within recent times, I think the cheapest or the lowest fee would have been $30, I think, for a dog that would have been fixed, a neutered dog, once it was not a vicious dog or in that category. The problem, though, was that the monies, it was never really enforced. And now you're seeing people you can go by someone's place and they have like 10 dogs in the yard, none of them licensed. I'm not trying to suggest that they can't afford to feed them, but the perception is by a lot of the farmers, particularly small ruminant farmers, sheep and goat farmers, the perception has been that the dogs that are attacking their animals are dogs that are in the category of the vicious dogs. And so they have been complaining bitterly. I think it's about time that we took the issue seriously and address the problem relative to the concerns that the farmers have been advancing. It just can't be that you don't want some people to keep dogs, because that's how some people felt that the legislation was going to affect them. But it must be that we keep animals in a responsible manner. That same law, I think, would have addressed the safekeeping of the animal on your property, and you had a responsibility to make sure that the animals were kept, that your fencing was of the required height, that the animals can't get over. But we know that we've seen dogs scale 8-foot fence. So I'm addressing it again tonight because someone called me yesterday and said that I think if it wasn't 4, I think it was 6 heads of the animal they just wiped out just like that in one day. And previous to that, they would have lost some animals within recent times. And I'm appealing to the Ministry of Agriculture to start looking seriously about addressing this problem. At one point, it got to me. I don't think that the intervention had, was that it was a humane way of addressing the problem. In that, I don't think that a government institution should be dishing out poison to poison dogs. But that I knew was a practice that had occurred in trying to address the problem. But the issue is, for me, if Naya has some animals and he lost a few to dog bite or dog attacks, how poisoning the next dog helps Naya to recover his loss? That doesn't make any sense. We must be able to compensate Naya from a fund that everybody who has a dog would pay into. Because when these things happen, nobody wants to take responsibility. So if government is going to collect licensing fees from people who have dogs, and they ought to start doing that, then that money should be available to compensate farmers when they have losses. Once you can prove that the losses occur, whether it can be the vet services, go out to make sure that they double check on these, claims that are made. And so I want to lay it here again and ask that the Department of Agriculture think seriously about getting government to put the infrastructure in place to do the licensing of dogs, and from that fund be able to compensate farmers when they have losses.
Oh, interesting stuff, Dr. Bartlett. Yes, I do get some complaints too, from both ends. People who say the dog has been poisoned because they bite up some animals that drift all around their property on the outside of their property. Dog come out and bite up. The intricacies of dogs and animals is major, really, here in our society. I suppose something will have to be done officially in some way, but to be quite honest with you, I cannot at this point even attempt to formulate a strategy. It's a bit complicated, and as Dr. Bartlett said, I know there's a licensing fee, but nobody licensed no dog. Obviously that is not enforced, but there's a lot happening as it relates to dogs and animals, both sides arguing that they have a right because the animal owner should have land too for the animal to run about on, and when it's drifting to the public domain, the dog bite up the animal, and sometimes the dog get poisoned. I think some kind of intervention will have to be made along the line, because it involves people's hard work and loss on both sides. You have a nice dog and you come home and your dog dead because somebody goat get poisoned, get bite up somewhere. So I do. It's a deep thing, but I find it very difficult to figure out. And those who are in such position obviously have to give it some serious thought and do something about it. I cannot really establish a blueprint or even give an idea about that at this point, to be quite honest.
Now I smile because I know why you're at a loss, because you've heard that or seen that movie a trillion times. And my contribution at this point to this discussion or topic is, you would have heard me say before, there are certain words and phrases that when I hear them I know an election is near. This is one of the topics, and I have evidence to show it. I can go back to tapes. Every time there is an election, this topic is hot in the air.
The dog topic?
Yes, the animals, roaming animals and donkeys and monkeys and whatever else and so on and so forth.
Okay.
And you made a point when you were making your contribution about the laws. They're there, the licenses, and so it's there. Good evening, thank you for holding.
Good evening, world category, Mr. Webbo. How are you doing?
I'm good, how about you?
Okay, I'm good too, I'm good. And good evening, Dr. Bartlett.
Good evening.
And the all-arounder, Mr. Stanley there?
No, he's not.
Okay. Now,
but he's listening, and if you challenge him, he'll call in. Okay, go ahead.
Dr. Bartlett, I heard you make a suggestion, right? And I agree with you. But I have to use the word "but" in that suggestion. With the dog license, pick up a fund from all who have a dog. Well, I will put it this way. I would say, well, they raise the dog licensing fee so high that all dogs must be licensed, and the fee would be raised that high in case your dog happen to destroy anybody products, animal or bite anybody. Because let's say Noel has a chihuahua and that lives in Noel's house. Then Noel should only be responsible for licensing his dog, but not paying a fee, like you say, for dog because you have a dog. Because you got a lot of people have dogs out in the public. Some of them walking without a leash, and some of them have a leash. And those who have on a leash, when they see a cat or another dog, you should see how they pull in the owner because they want to destroy their dog. So like I said, I think the penalty for licensing dog, it should be so high that those who only raising dog to go fight and destroy other people, animal, they will back off from that thing. I listen off the ear for your comment.
Yeah, but caller, you made an interesting point, and you use your analogy, your example using Naya. Mm-hmm. But Naya also made a point by saying nobody lies in dog, but the lie is there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's
so
right.
So that's, you know, with the suggestion you make, no matter how high you put it, because it's low right now. And they ain't licensing it, but they still have the dog, right?
That's right.
Okay, all right.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you, Ed.
Okay. You see, so that is what happens, you see, Naya, sometimes. We all know, right? And that's why sometimes you have to cut through the chase. Don't just do talk. When people mean that they're not going to do things the way it is prescribed, that's, you have a problem. And every time I hear people supporting people who do things that are wrong by giving some sort of excuse, it bothers me. You have a law, you prescribe it, you feel the lies and feel, let's follow the procedure and see if we can get it changed. But then when you have certain laws, rules or guidelines and people deliberately contravene them, and then we start to say, oh, well, you know, the people them poor or the people them this and so on and so forth. That's why breaking down the society.
Well, but I'm going to have to sleep on that one and to really find out where you're going with that one. I do understand your cynicism because I've been, you know, I guess in that position as well. But it does not address, and I said it was a perennial problem. It doesn't go away. It's not just an annual problem that you have once a year. This is something that keeps going on. So to raise it now, for me, and I just want to make this point, it has nothing, absolutely nothing to do with an election year, for me. When I raised it because I could identify with the person who called me yesterday and said, girl, I ain't even so sure I call you. And obviously, because I'm a vet, the person thought that it was important to at least be able to share that with me. And all I could say is, I have tried. And this is what I have tried. This is what I have proposed. So it hasn't got anything to do with politics as far as I'm concerned. I do understand that we're in that season and everybody think that everything is politics. And because I would have decided that I was going to get involved, I could understand that. But I'm just trying, though, not to shift the focus off of what it is. The focus is that we have a problem that is continuous. And because somebody reached out to me yesterday, because they were desperate, these are hard times. Things are expensive and getting even more expensive. The person even went on to disclose to me that their last electricity bill was so high that they had to sell a couple of the animals to help to meet that bill. Now, all I'm saying is let us be cognizant of the fact that there are people in the community who need protection that they themselves can't assume. Government is going to have to assume the responsibility of being the broker between the people with, because these are conflicting interests in the community, obviously. You have the people with dogs that damage goats. You have the people with goats that damage plants. You know, but we have not reached to the point where we have resolved the matter. And the matter keeps coming up. And it doesn't only come up. And surprise, surprise, it doesn't only come up when there's an election year.
Well, whoever got to, you know, obviously we know that there is a licensing fee. There's a law. You're supposed to license your dog.
Yes.
And I think probably that's where it starts. That's where it starts. Who is going to press the button? I don't know.
So, in other words,
That's
Naya, it is fair to say that a part of what we are suggesting to solve the solution for this problem is already in place. But,
yes.
right, but how many times and how many different topics and issues, after all is said and done, it comes down to the, I wish somebody would give me a smaller word to use. It comes down to enforcement. I have had people here from the agriculture department on the same topic, and when Dr. Bartlett was speaking earlier, she used a term, ruminant. Remember that? Right. And I remember them they using those terms and so on, and they all sort of, and then somebody pointed out that the laws that they were hoping to put in place to solve the problem were already on the books, and you didn't hear from them after that. Because nobody goes beyond. A lot of the suggestions we are bringing forth to solve these problems, put this in place, put that in place, they're there.
Webbo, as it relates to the attacks on small animals, or what they call ruminants, which are just goat and sheep really around here, the licensing fee that was proposed, there was never a mention in it that farmers would be compensated from it. And that is what the difference in the proposal that I am bringing tonight. However, there is a mechanism in place such that if I could prove that it was Naya's dog that did the damage to my small ruminant, which is my sheep and goat, then I could get compensation through the court from Naya. There is a provision for that. But all I'm simply saying is we need to operationalize our laws. We can't just put it on the books, because I think when, in fairness to the agriculture department people, when they came, they spoke about whatever the laws were and they wanted to amend them. Maybe that's what the proposal was at the time. I don't even remember what the focus was when they came. But the follow-up, like you say, is never there. But I am just appealing, and not because of no politics. It's time that we get to the point where a farmer, because things are getting dread around here, is what the farmer would have said to me, Things are getting dread, meaning things are getting tight and tighter. So we can't just let roaming dogs just do damage and go back home and follow them. Because, that is part of the process. Sometimes the guys out there in the field, or the farmers, and they see the dogs, they chase them. Somebody said that they chased them all the way up to Hamilton. And then once they got to Hamilton, which suggests maybe that might be their home, then they just got lost in the bush, in the area, because they're home and they're comfortable in nowhere to go to hide. So he was not able to take it to the point that he could say, well, it was John Brown's house that the dog went to. And so there's a reasonable proposition that John Brown, you should have to pay for the damage. But we ought not to have to go through that. We shouldn't have to put our farmers to that. What I'm proposing is, if we were to have a fund, which is a portion of maybe what the licensing fee is, then Naya would be able to get compensated, because it's not fair. Naya puts in all this work, follow this stray dog, or this roaming dog, and still can't determine who to get to, who he could ultimately go to be made whole, and that can't be fair. And so I am just appealing on behalf of the farmers. And if there are farmers out there who are having similar experiences and want to chime in, then I would encourage them to do so. I leave it there.
I leave it there also, Webbo.
Okay, and nobody is more accommodating than me as I ask people to walk with me, I walk with people too. So once you all are leaving it there, I got you. I'll be back after these. This is Thought That Get Results. Dr. Patricia Bartlett, Conrad Nile Library. Your phone calls on 1-869-469-1616 and or 1700. By the way, let me just make this announcement because we decided on it late. We'll be speaking with Dr. Thwaites tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock. Okay, so we'll be talking about the vaccines and the COVID-19 and other things hopefully we can get in. By the way, and we'll find out when Doc is coming back on the island for those folks who are interested in that. So please take note of that scheduling. 8 o'clock tomorrow morning, Doc will be in live. We'll be Dr. Thwaites, doing Thwaites, urologist. So make sure that you're in with us tomorrow. Okay, good evening, thank you for holding. Good evening, thank you for holding.
Good evening, Mr. Webber, and good evening to all of your guests. Is it against the law to have the army or the police shoot these dogs? Because even though I was listening to Dr. Bartlett, but sometimes the amount of damage done to one flock, even if they were licensed, it couldn't cover it. So I don't know if there's any law against shooting them. I know some farmers try poisoning them.
Right, caller, you see, I was thinking myself, you see, sometimes when you make a proposal, when you start to now determine whether or not it will become law, is when you start to flesh out the practicality of it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, because the same people can say how old the dog was home and the dog, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I think the best, and maybe allow the farmers to have even this kind of ranger guns. Because it's very distressing.
It's very distressing, and I don't know if there's a big...
And then you won't even mind if they kill one and eat it.
Right, but here's a downside to that. Those rangers may take the wrong aim. You know, so I mean, these are realities.
The time that the dog go out to hunt, I call it hunt, and sometimes they train them, you know, at the property to kill.
And then, as I think was Naya mentioned, that when you begin there, you're not going to end there, because some people are going to bring in as part of the debate that if you have animals too, where are they when they get attacked, and what damage are they doing to other people's property other than, you know, whether a dog or something else. As some people have the animals, they destroy other people's crop. Those people have to make a livelihood as well.
You see,
and so it's not.
We don't consider it. We don't consider it people.
Right.
But by the way, you know, I think when they passed that law, people who own these dangerous dogs that they're classified were required to insure them too, you know. I don't know, Dr. Bartlett, remember?
Well, not within the recent legislation that they have.
Passed,
no.
In order to keep these high expensive dogs that like to attack and kill. You not only had to license them, and they were to have this thing inserted in them so you could identify them.
Microchip. Well, all
do you all do it in Nevis?
Well, the law as it was, it was passed, I think, and the law said that once the dog was over 4 months, then it must be microchipped.
Yeah, but as you said, nobody following through.
But basically, caller, might I ask a question rhetorically, if you will? It comes back to basic. Are we a people generally who follow rules?
That rule book came up long time, you know. So we hear the rule, but we say it don't apply to me. Right.
So that is part of the problem. So it doesn't matter what how fancy we come with something and stuff like that and so on. The question is, at the end of the day, how likely or feasible it will be.
I'll tell you, I went to St. Lucia one time. I've been there more than once. And I said, well, y'all don't keep dogs. And the person said to me, well, you can't have dogs, dogs up and on the road and in the place. He said, the farmers raise ruminants, and they can't afford to have dogs loose like that. But in St. Kitts, I don't know about Nevis, you can't even walk in the road for dogs. And the same thing in Barbados. You don't see a lot of dogs all over the place. But seriously, I think, look, the dogs roaming in a certain area, they should allow the defense force people to go out in the night and shoot them.
Yeah.
And after you shoot a couple, the owners might begin to put them back on leash in the night rather than letting them loose.
Yeah, and part of the debate is that you shouldn't shoot them, you shouldn't poison them, you shouldn't kill them, you shouldn't this, you shouldn't that.
What you gonna do?
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Because you can't walk up to them and hold them,
So that comes on as part of the debate.
No, but the law prescribes that a police could shoot a dog that is off of its property between 6 and 6. So anytime between 6 in the evening and 6 the next morning, police can shoot a dog that is at large, a dog that is not on the premises.
Yeah, and
So,
the farmer, right? If
right,
the farmer
right.
has his pen. So they have vehicles that could go in that area because they will see they're traveling in flock.
So then the truth is that we do have things to address the problems that we have. But if you don't do it, you're going to end up with, then we should do A or B. But who telling you that when we do that, when we put that in place, we will do it as well?
I don't know why. May Lord have mercy on us.
There you go.
Well, all I'm trying to propose, though, is for the farmers to get some relief. You must put a mechanism in place so that the farmers get relief. Whether you decide that you're going to, and that is the best way I think that we can go forward, make sure that everybody licenses their dogs. And from that, we can have enough monies in the kitty so then a farmer doesn't have to lose, because it's not fair.
I do.
Whoever said life is fair?
Life could be fairer than it is, Webbo. For some people.
Webbo, just a little diversion here. I'm hearing a lot of talk about shooting this and shooting that, give people this right. The other day I'm in my shop on Sunday afternoon. I hear a big gun shoot off, yeah? And all I hear in my shop is clink, 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 clink. Bullets knocking against the metals in my shop. One of them connect on my son's car.
Wow.
You get me?
I got you,
And
because
this is 5 weeks ago.
I got you because
And
when
I'm
the suggestion
standing next to a tire in my shop, and the tire was inflated, and it just deflated one time. And I didn't even see what hit the tire.
Okay, so
Anyway, my son was paid a little money because bullet hit his car. The hood of his car, which he was just there looking after the engine as we do on a Sunday afternoon, mess around in the yard. So this shooting thing, people going out there in desperation trying to bring home a monkey tail, yeah, so that government can pay them $45. Look, I never hear such absurdity, to be honest. It's a very serious thing when you give people the right to shoot. Okay? I don't believe in that at all.
okay, so that's an example of what happens to suggestions when the great debate start, right?
All right.
Okay.
So that was a very serious incident, and I promised I was going to come and talk about it on air, but it seems like I've been led to talk about it. This shooting of animals, it comes with a major responsibility for public safety, mate. Okay, when people are desperate and want money you bring one monkey tail for $45 to the government, and you come in areas where people are living and shooting.
Good evening. Thank you for holding.
Yeah, I'm back, Robert. Dr. Bartlett, I forget, excuse my manners, I forget to wish you happy International Women's Day.
Thank you.
Now, I just hear Naya say something there. Naya? Sorry that it had to happen to you. But you say you're in your shop and you just hear clink, 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 clink.
Yep.
Bullets firing. Well, I'm glad that you're a human being and not a metal, otherwise that bullet might have catch you to you hear clink. But now, come back to Webbo's point. Webbo say it need a smaller word for the word enforcement. Webbo, I would suggest the word that they should use for enforcement is must, M-U-S-T. And then when you do that now, there are going to be an organization coming from overseas and say, oh, you cannot be killing the dog them. That is cruelty to animals. But they're not going to look at the reason why you have to kill the dog them. Because the dog them killing other animals, and it's okay for them because they're not seeing what the dog doing. But then the dog has been shot publicly, and they're going to see that, and they're going to say, no, you can't be doing that. So therefore, like Webbo say, when you give the rangers them the right to shoot the stray dog them, the ranger going to shoot something else. But something serious has to be done. And come back to this thing, Webbo. This gun, I said so some time ago. They need to put what you call when they actually bringing you weapon them in a certain time.
Amnesty.
Yeah, amnesty, right. Have an amnesty on both the two islands with those who have illegal guns. Because if I have a gun and it is not licensed, my intention is to use it illegally to shoot people. And if they catch me with a gun that is illegal after the amnesty is expired, then the penalty for having that should be so high that they wouldn't even want to hear the word GUN. And then we will help to curb some of these just shooting randomly all over the place and going to look for who you want to. And when you go and you see who you're looking for among other people, you don't care who did. So I said they need an amnesty. Anyway, thanks for listening, gentlemen.
All right, thank you.
But I say I wanted to move on, but just a scenario whereby I've got a plot of land, I've got some crops growing, I've got my dog there, and some wild animals coming down eating off my crop. I let go my dog and the wild animals, and kill the wild animals.
Well, I don't know if it's a hypothetical, but let me extend on that. Right, let me extend on that hypothetical, and then all of a sudden, the wild animals are no longer wild because the owner said that you kill the animals, and then exactly. So it goes back again to civic responsibility, right?
Yes.
You would hear people go back and say, well, why is it long ago everybody is saying go back to agriculture, we used to produce it, we used to produce that. You used to have dogs as well, you used to have roaming animals and so on and so forth. But the question was there a better civic responsibility with these things, where people tie the animals, etc., etc., etc.? So the laws and everything were there, but it again comes back to the responsibility and the enforcement of it. And every time somebody does not enforce a law or go according to the rules, a lot of times the solution is, oh, you need to make a next rule or next law. But you put the thing in place for the enforcement of it. Because sometimes that's the easy way out, Oh, I think they need to, and the example I was given when I had the panel discussion, after they found out, because they were coming with the solution, which is they were trying to get government to pass this law, and after they found out the law was there already, it's just to go enforce it. The whole argument stopped right there. Good evening, thank you for holding.
Good evening, Webbo. Good evening, Webbo, and good evening to your panelists.
Good evening.
Now, there is an interesting thing about the roaming animals. Because if you look at our history, it would appear that that is part of the history of the Federation. Because a typical picture of Bastia or Charlestown, you will see goat dogs roaming, and people tend to marvel at that, like, that's how, things used to be way back. So I don't know how you guys are going to look at this as you do your panel this evening. I just thought of that, and I think I would share that with you.
Yeah.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Right. That's interesting. How I would contribute to that is this: when you look at some long time pictures of the beaches and stuff like that, you used to see good, lovely vegetation keeping things in place, coconut trees and all that and so on. But the now pictures don't have them. That's my contribution. I watch you.
Well, you know, things have developed, Webbo.
Okay.
You know, I sometimes make a reference to my friends when, you know, if you build a nice road through a paddock is a place where enough cows are. Well, if you build a nice road through a paddock and a cow poo on your nice road, you tend to get vexed with the cow. You know, but you know, a civilization we're dealing with here now, I suppose, and things have changed, and adjustment will have to be made all the time, and of course, you know, pictures back then cannot be the status quo going forward 100 years after, I suppose.
Yeah, I don't think that the issue necessarily is about maintaining the lifestyle that we used to have years ago. We have progressed beyond that. Lands are shrinking as it relates to lands that are dedicated to agriculture as opposed to other competing activities, and we have to always be mindful of that. And the closer we live, and the more expansion that we have into these areas, like Naya made the point about, you know, building a road through a paddock, and incidentally, you know, that's a joke that I just shared with somebody just yesterday. I was like, someone would go and build a house in the middle of a paddock and then complain that the cow was mooing too loud, you know, but before you got there, you know, when you got there, you recognize it was in the middle of the paddock. But anyway, be that as may, but we have to learn how to coexist, because we are on just 36 square miles, 6 by 6, and in order for us to do that, it means that we're going to have to try as best as we can to follow the laws that were put in place for that very reason, so that we could all coexist. So we have issues of farmers having interaction with people who have dogs. Now, Webbo made the point that people must always respect their civic responsibility, and a lot of people try, but in the event that their trying is not good enough, that is why the law is there. So if you fall short, that is what the law is there to keep you in track, you know, keep you in place where you know, and everything is in order. And if we don't enforce the laws, and I am not targeting any particular enforcement agency, but whoever is responsible for enforcing laws ought to do so, or else this community is going to continuously be having these conflicts. Because if I know that I can only afford to keep 2 dogs because the licensing fee is $30, I know times are hard, and I can only support 2 dogs because I have to pay $60 to get them licensed, maybe that might force me to contain my overzealous nature in terms of trying to get more dogs than I can afford. So sometimes when you pass by somebody's house and they have 10 dogs, you know, in the yard, not that they can't afford to feed them, but chances are they may just go wandering around. Chances are, because it might be difficult to keep all 10 dogs on a small plot of land, and that happens. The question is, how are we going to get the people who in a position to mediate, get them to do their jobs? And at the end of the day, I think that is what the problem is. The problem is, if you put laws in place and the personnel who should enforce the law not doing it, then we're going to end up with what we have today. You know, and we're going to continuously be talking about the same problem over and over. I went to license a vehicle for my uncle today, and I didn't even realize when you go for the insurance, when you buy the insurance, a tax is in the insurance. It already has a tax in it, and then they still charge you an extra $30. They call it a policy fee. you know, and that is being collected. But that's only started to be collected, I understand, in 2020, even though the law was in place long before that. But in 2020, somehow somebody decided this is the time. This is the time we're going to start to collect this extra fee. And it is being collected. Now, I don't know what the rationale was at that point in time, in the middle of the pandemic. Man just said, okay, it's about time we started to impose this fee that the law had prescribed that we have the authority to collect sometime previous to that. But it was done. So when there is a will, usually we find a way. And I'm just appealing again, let us find a way.
Did you say that was an insurance, yeah?
Insurance, yeah, there's a fee. I don't know if you...
Well, some people who work for government don't do the work, you know, and they get double pay and so forth. So I don't. There's no reason much.
Good evening. Thank you for holding.
Yes. Good evening, Webbo. Dr. Bartlett. I must agree with you and saying that people shouldn't have 5, 6 dogs or 10 dogs. A person should be able to keep 10 dogs if they want, and if they're secure. I mean, you could come, check the person's yard, see if the yard is well secure, as you could keep 10 dogs or more, and look at the person and see if if he's able enough to probably to feed the dog and to put condition the dog in, and you could back check and whatnot, because dog, I mean, there's not everybody able to can afford to buy a gun to protect them, and most of us use a dog to protect us, and sometimes we need more than one dog, because I have dogs, and if somebody passing by my gate, and if somebody need me, if they in front of my gate standing, or they just walking along the road, so dog mean a lot to most of us. So I believe that you could be able to check to see if the person is able to keep the dog, he can feed the dog, and if the dog in a secure place. Okay, and that's my country.
Caller, I could ask you a question?
Yes, Mr. Weber.
I asked you only because you are on the line, but I was going to ask it generally anyway. We are not, when we're referring to dogs, we're not discriminating, right? We use dog to cover everything, because I hope we don't mean dog only and don't mean cats. That's funny?
Yeah, now I'm you get the point.
Okay.
Oh, that's a light moment.
Oh, that's a light moment.
I'm asking you.
But I don't know. I just was asking.
Okay, but I just want the doctor to know, because if someone is able to keep 10 dogs, I mean, they should be able to keep 10 dogs. If you're in government and you want to check out whosoever authority, and you want to check the premises to see if the dog are secure, I think you're able to feed the dog. I think nothing wrong with that.
Okay.
Right.
Thank you.
Bebo, can I just respond?
Yes.
I don't know at which point the caller would have joined the conversation, but obviously he would have misunderstood what I said. I never tried to make the point that anyone should not keep as many dogs as they want to. That was not the point. Okay, caller, so the point I was trying to make is that some people have more dogs than they can reasonably, and then I withdrew that. And you know what? Let me leave it right there. I did not say that nobody should be able to keep 10 dogs. You can keep as many dogs as you can license.
But it was a serious question I asked the caller, though. So let me ask it generally. When we said dogs, it's like when the Bible speaks and it says man, and it covers every body, right? So when we said dog, we are covering dogs. We're covering all the animals, right?
No, we're covering dogs.
So we don't. So in other words, cats get away.
Yeah.
Until cats become an issue, then I guess we won't have legislation for cats. But
so
we're covering dog. Dog is a concern.
So you're suggesting that cats are not an issue?
I'm not trying to suggest that cats are not an issue.
But that's what I'm asking.
I was speaking specifically to the laws.
Right. So what I'm asking is, in terms of nuisances and causing problems and stuff like that, I'm asking if it's only dogs causing problems.
No, I never said that.
I'm not suggesting you said it. I'm just asking an open question.
Okay.
Right.
Is this what the question was asked? I thought you said, you asked the question if when we said dog, it covers everything else, but we're
right.
speaking specifically about the laws and about dogs.
Right. Okay. Well, let me ask this of Naya then. Naya, you think that if we start looking at cats, we can find nuisances as well?
Sure.
Okay. All right. Let me get a break. This is Thought That Get Results. I will be back right after this.
With all the power from the tower, this is the powerhouse of the Eastern Caribbean, VON Radio, from the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis.
Back in this episode of Thought That Get Results. By the way, if you joined us late, this is the second segment of the program. On the first segment of the program, in case you missed it, they're trying to put something in place where, just like the eye program on Nevis, they can have an ear, nose, and throat program here where people can go get themselves checked and so on. It's going to be free of cost. It's a foundation, some doctors from Florida in the United States putting it together for free for the people of Nevis, just like they have the ear program. They're hoping that if all goes well, with the support of the government and everything, that they can get going by this summer. We're hoping that we've pledged our support in any way we can to that program, and hoping that can benefit the people of Nevis. So the other thing I'd like to let you know is that Dr. Thwaites will be on Wednesday morning at 8 o'clock, right? So make sure that you're with us as well. And then you can find out, those of you who normally would see the doc, you can find out when he'll be in again as well. So that's Wednesday morning, tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock. Okay, what else we got? Anything else?
Well, Webbo,
Yes.
the last time I was here, I think I kind of pointed out to the public that we should be expecting some fallout from what was going on in Ukraine, the invasion of Ukraine by Russia. It's already starting to bite, you know. And I went to the supermarket about 2 weeks ago, and I bought this particular item, and it was for $10 and a little bit of change. Today I went back, the same very item is $14 and close to $14.95, you know. So it's already starting to bite.
Same stock? Or new stock? You know.
I presume it was a new stock. But it is concerning, you know, and we're going to have to start to tighten our belts. And I've said that to family members. I've said to them, start to save, you know. This is not a time, you know, for us to be careless with our use of money, you know. We have to start budgeting. For those of us who have not yet started to budget, we're going to have to start to budget and watch our money closely.
And that's interesting because when I got in, just before I got in here, I normally catch up with the world news, and President Biden is asking Americans to tighten up. He just said the worst is yet to come, because one of the things he has ordered is that they put an embargo basically on the purchase of oil from Russia to tighten the screws and so on. So the essence is, right, Dr. Badley, that whether we blame X, Y, Z or not, the point is it will happen, and it will happen even not from a practical standpoint. And that's why I put in and I asked you the question, seemingly jokingly but very serious, if it was the same stock. Because in crises, what people do, you remember the term price gouging?
Yeah.
Yeah, when what's unscrupulous people do is that when there's a crisis, although they may not be experiencing it as yet, they try and profitize from it well ahead of the time. So it puts more pain on the unsuspecting people. So that happens, and you know, unfortunately, that's sometimes that the way life is. But I agree with you, Dr. Bartlett. We got to be cognizant and prepare and try to fight it, because it's here.
Yeah, I certainly see it, Webbo. But you know, Webbo, I always hear people encouraging people to save. as Dr. Bartlett said, save Mark Brantley, Premier, during the pandemic. Save. Is it good for the economy? All this saving? Well, I mean, really and truly, saving. We want people who get double pay to spend. Spending is good.
Yeah, but it's your philosophy of life, you know. Because
it's a school of thought.
Because I knew someone, and I keep thinking about it. Because I don't, look, a lot of times, I don't dismiss people's view of things. You know, I'm a kind of person who find life and things very intriguing. And I heard somebody say one time they had a life insurance and they cash it in because it didn't make sense. And I thought to myself, well, that's kind of interesting. Why did you do that? So because after I did and can't spend it, somebody is going to be able to spend it. But that was the purpose of it.
Yeah.
Now, the way that person thinks is that I'm not going to be putting anything in place for anybody else to benefit.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
Now, to the idea about saving, some people might have a philosophy or ideology or strategy that you should save, and as a consequence of that, you're better off to get certain things done. You ask a question whether or not it's not better to spend, and it's better for the economy. So that's a debate right there, and some people will go along with that idea, and some people will go along with the other one.
Well, in response to Naya's admonition to spend, I can't take that because the economy we have to recognize that the economy has been on the downturn, you know. We have not introduced anything to boost the economy, to get it to take off, and in this environment it is not likely that it would. There's a time, the Bible says, a time for everything under the sun. There's a time to save and a time to spend. And I would challenge you, Naya, in saying to you that this, I think, is the time for us to save. Because the inflation rate, the way things are going, what you used to be able to buy yesterday, you can only buy a portion of that today. And if things continue this way, because we have basically no control over the external forces, these are exogenous forces. And this is the kind of shock that the IMF would tell you about, you know, and the IMF itself would tell some countries to save. You save for a rainy day. You save in anticipation of the day that you have not the ability to gain more on what you would have already had, but you have now to spend more. So salaries are not going up. And so if you were getting $10 yesterday, and it could only buy you a pound of saltfish, $10 next week probably going to only be able to buy you a half a pound.
Good. So the money you're saving is getting less all the time too, as inflation rises.
But you have something to you have a buffer if things get so bad that government maybe, God forbid, have to lay off people. Then what would you turn to? You can't operate as if things are all hunky-dory. You don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. You don't know if Russia is going to advance even further into Europe. We don't know. These are the unknown, the unpredictable. That is why you save. You save because you don't know what's going to happen next week. And you can't anticipate that next week you're going to have the same job that you have this week. Or you'll be paid the same amount. But that is not something that you necessarily have to take seriously, but other people may just...
Yeah, but the hypothetical there, though, I can add to that, but maybe if I were on the playground. Go ahead, Niall.
No, there's not much to say, Webbo, but I just feel like with the state of the economy, yeah, the outside, circumstance is what it is, but I think we're at a point now where I think more spending would stimulate the economy. Yes, we need to start spend more.
No, but you need new money
to support
But you need new monies into it.
Because really and truly, how much money we have in circulation in this little place here?
But yes, that's just it.
Do you understand?
If we're not producing any new jobs, or we're not getting any jobs, or money is coming in from outside, we're just circulating the same little bit of money we have in here. So to spend it all off in anticipation of what? How you're going to, recoup in the next couple of weeks if something else were to happen.
But on the same topic of the war, Dr. Bartlett, but with a different angle, also the humanitarian aspect of it, and even the reason for. And by the way, and this is not a facetious question, what is the reason for the war? It's not a facetious question.
Good question.
Well, the reasons that have been advanced, at least from Putin's point of view, he felt like, he was being threatened. That is, and then there's another spin now. He's saying that he's trying to liberate the people, in Ukraine from these neo-Nazis and those kind of things. So, right.
Okay.
So his excuses are kind of varied. He's not sticking to the original, which is I felt threatened because NATO was encroaching. They were helping Ukraine, to position themselves such that we felt our security was being threatened. So it sounded like initially that is what he started with, and he thought that he would get more support, at least from his people, which he's not now. So he's now saying, other things. But I don't know if there's a justification for it. I personally have not accepted that as a justification.
Right. You see, so the question was deliberately put because is either he probably doesn't have a just cause, or he has not made his case, at least with you, Dr. Bartlett, because you're not even able to say. You see all this thing and stuff like that, and when you pause, you're not even able to say, well, what is it all for? What's the end game? And when you look, again, maybe it is just a selling package, he may argue. When you look at the hurt, and when you look at the history, now the other morning on the other show that I do, I made a point and asked people to think about it, and asked some to sleep if needs be, and some did. And I said, no matter how great a conflict is, it took time to get there, and it started small.
Yeah.
And it wasn't addressed. Yeah. And then it came real big. So a lot of the conflicts, and I like to put things, whether it is from the Bible, I like to say let's make the connect. So I like to put things in our perspective so we can see it from that sense as well. And so we must always be mindful. And when we hear and engage in the bickering among ourselves, that are small, it would rise to national proportion one day. And some body, person or persons will get just as excited. And some of us at the end will pause and say, well, what is all this for? And then we will remember it started with a little bickering.
Smart.
Yeah.
This is good evening, you're on the air.
Yeah, I call it from the Virgin Islands. I need to know, one of the shows was talking about possible agriculture this year. So I want to know if you have any idea yet around which month it might be kept.
You mean the agricultural exhibit fair?
For me, or for both of them.
I think
March.
March something. I think we have it here. You want to know the date?
Yes.
You want to come?
I would like to come.
You would like to come? Okay. If you give me a second, I could tell you when it is.
The 27th.
The 20.
Okay. But you need to be fully vaccinated and all until, or you could sure.
Yeah, you need to be fully vaccinated to come by us.
Okay, I can't come.
You can't come.
No, if you have a St. passport, I think you can come. You know,
You have a single.
No.
You can't come.
No.
Well, it's not until the 20-something, so you have enough time to get yourself sorted out, no?
No, but I'm fully vaccinated, so I can't be.
Oh, you're halfway?
No, actually, you need to be fully vaccinated to enter the federation.
That's correct, yes. So you can't make it?
No, I can't make it because of that.
Okay, but still tell your friends about it, okay? Maybe they might make it.
Okay, when you say it might be?
The 26th. Let's say the 25th. The 24th. 24th and the 25th.
Okay.
Okay,
That's
of March. Huh?
yes.
That's in Nevis.
That's in Nevis, yes.
Okay. Think you have a separate one?
Yeah, later on, but you still got to get vaccinated to go there too.
Okay.
Okay?
Anyway,
So if you can,
I listen to the show all the time.
we appreciate it, and if you can make it, send your friends, okay?
Okay, I will try, yeah.
Yes.
All right, take care.
Have a good evening.
Same to you.
Okay. Right.
He start with the spark. Of course, there's little historical issues and so existing between, Ukraine and those countries in the east of Ukraine, or those places in the east of Ukraine that Russia tend to have this respect for as independent countries. There's some history there, which is obviously not well known, but Webbo, yes, it's major, and we got to reinforce ourselves down here in a big way. The war is the humanitarian thing. I mean, Webbo is major. It's major. But I wanted to make the point, Webbo, that Putin maybe realize that he can do what he's doing with a level of impunity. He can destroy Ukraine, who looks to the West and threaten his security, and no man make a move other than the sanctions. He's successful in that respect. No man make a move. How could he vision that?
Yeah, but you see, the part of the thing also is the philosophy and the thinking of people, right? For instance, to one person, maybe to him, he doesn't care if 10,000, 100,000 people die. He doesn't care. To the other person, they may care.
Of course.
Right? So you have two strategies here. For instance, and this is just hypothetical, he may decide, well, he's got nuclear weapons, he don't care if they have a war, kill a lot of people, etc., etc., etc. In the end, he hopefully will be left standing, and then he can go on. The other leaders may not see it that way. They more care about the children and the women and the other people who are suffering. And so every single child or adult matters. So 10 casualties to the West, as an example, is major. 100,000 to him may mean nothing. So you have a sort of mismatch there in ideologies. And sometimes when you look and you assess what you're going to lose, and you determine if you should walk away. Because sometimes, for instance, somebody might butt up your head now, and they may want to haul off a fight with you. And maybe you could beat them, but you tell yourself, I have to finish the job tomorrow. So I can't sleep in jail tonight. So you walk away, he think you're afraid, but he doesn't understand that you have different concepts,
So true. The thing is, I don't think that he's necessarily behaving like a rational person. And I think that is what the fear is, the unknown. Because if you were to upset him to the extent that he leashes off or unleashes,
Rational, Dr. Barry, do you know? They say that Hitler think that he was rational.
But in our estimation, at least, using the filter that, we have based on our standards in the West, Well, to me, he doesn't seem like a rational person at this point, because one would want to know what is the game, okay, so what is the end game? And he seemed not to have an end game, because he pushes and then he looks to see what the reaction is, and then they impose all these sanctions that really should hurt, but he's still not reacting as if, the sanctions, he even cares about the sanctions.
I heard one commentator say, Dr. Bartlett, who is an expert, they say, on Russia affairs, who said that this didn't happen overnight,
Oh, no.
Putin pre-calculated all these things. He anticipated the different moves that the West would make, and he put certain things in place, including for when they put the sanctions on. So he didn't just come up overnight and say, well, okay, I'm going to do this thing. He'd been planning, he said, well, okay, I think if I move here, these are the options that they have. How will I stand up against it, and so on and so forth, right? Now, remember, after 2-3 days, they said that the convoy seemed to be run out of, something or something. But the convoy is still moving. And then they're saying that, and then when you look, he start moving further, and he has taken a city, and he has taken another one. And then the last thing I learned was that they're saying now, okay, he will have the cities, no doubt, but he won't get the cooperation from the people. So he has his plan step by step.
But what is his end game, though? What is the end game?
The problem is, the answer to that is, I was watching one of those children cartoons, and I heard two kids using it, one used it on the other. And when the one kid said something to the other kid, she responded by saying, if you're waiting for me to tell you, that means you'll never know. So, if we are trying to figure out his end game, he's probably saying, y'all will never know until maybe the end.
Because one of the report I heard yesterday was trying to suggest that maybe he himself did not have the manpower. He might have the firepower, he didn't have the manpower, and they were now recruiting fighters from places like Syria. Was that a part of his original plan? Why would not he have positioned them before, the invasion? So I don't know that I necessarily agree that he had everything necessarily, covered, because a lot of talk, was about the amount of money they had in the reserves, but I don't think that it is necessarily, you can't buy from if everybody has alienated you, irrespective of how much money you have in the reserve. I don't know how that would help you to import the kind of things that you would want, or the kind of interaction you want, international trade and all that at this point, because nobody is willing to trade with you. And then, so I don't get it.
Yet, people's going to be willing to trade with Russia.
No, but they're already backing out for those things that and finding alternative sources, for the resources that they're looking for. It might be harder, but we have decided that is the price that we're going to pay. We're going to take the pinch. It's not like the U.S. didn't anticipate that if they cut off the fuel coming from Russia, that their population or their economy would not suffer. They have calculated that as well, but they're willing to, for the sake of peace or getting him to withdraw, they're willing to, shoulder that, and take the pinch on that.
Okay, good evening, thank you for holding. Good evening, you're on the air. Good evening, you're on the air. Okay, that caller is not connecting, so caller, could you let me try again. Good evening, you're on the air. Okay, caller, could you try again? Somehow we're not getting you through. Yes, go ahead. Who was it?
No, I do believe, Webbo, that there are going to be people to trade with Russia. The price at the pump is major in America. That change president sometimes, Going down the road, there are going to be a lot of things that we probably have not considered today. I mean, Russia have China. Russia have all these other countries that anti-America. to deal with. They're going to adapt alternative way. I mean, they say he's not taken with a swift from him. They have their own alternative method.
Okay, Naya, let me try again. Naya, good evening. Thank you for holding.
Mr. Herbert, good night.
Good evening.
Good evening to the panelists.
Good evening, sir.
Naya?
Yes, sir.
How are you doing?
Fine.
You okay?
Yes.
Yeah, gentlemen, I've been listening to this show for a bit. Good discussion. But one thing I know, I try to do, before I discuss a subject publicly, I try to get as much information on that particular subject. Well, I don't know for other people, but that is what I usually try to do. Now, you remember in the 80s there was a place called the USSR, or the Soviet Union. Hello?
Yes.
Okay. And it was broken up, and around 1990 I think it was, or 91, there was some formal agreement between what was then NATO and what is now called Russia. Russia emerged as one of the countries that came out of what was called the Soviet Union. And we know a little bit that the Soviet Union and the United States was involved in what was called the Cold War for approximately 30 years. I am happy that I am old enough to remember a little bit of history, because I hear people open their mouth, and it seems like what it is now is that motor man just story jump without any proper information. So Russia was the leading country that emerged out of what was called the Soviet Union. And there was some formal agreement that, well, as a matter of fact, I think it was Boris Yeltsin who was very pro-Western. He was very pro-Western because the leading people that was around him had many investment in Europe and in the West. And so he really wanted to join into NATO. But the EU and NATO always had this suspicion about Russia because it came out of the Soviet Union, which was at loggerhead with the United States, because those two areas was fighting for world dominance, if you remember. And out of that even came the Cuban Missile Crisis and all those things. Well, Russia tried to join NATO, but they refused because they still have a suspicion about Russia. Anyway, Russia asked for some guarantees that NATO would not expand all the way up to its borders, because what they realized is that they wanted to surround Russia, and that is exactly what Europe and NATO is trying to do. They want to surround Russia. And so they're building their military bases all around Russia. In fact, many people don't even know that the United States, in my mind, is not so much a country, it's an empire. The United States have over 800 military bases worldwide. All the other countries in the world put together have about 100 and something.
Okay, caller, I got about a minute left on the show, so... Yes, okay. I think the caller, we dropped it. I was giving him another minute to finish up. But who's got the last word?
Do it, Doctor.
Well, I would just like to take this opportunity to at least extend greetings to the women of this country, acknowledging the fact that today is International Women's Day, and usually the month of March we usually celebrate for a whole month. That is how important it is for us to acknowledge the work that our women have done, and continue to at least allow women a pathway to participate in the country at the highest level and of decision making. And I'm glad that the NRP has started that, and I'm hoping that it would gain momentum, and all the other political parties in the country would at least recognize that women need equality. And not only women, but men, we need to have gender equality. And I'm glad that we're on that pathway, and I continue to, at least encourage our women to do the best. Wherever you're stationed, do the best that you can. And happy International Women's Day to all women.
That's the last word. Dr. Patricia Bartlett, Conrad Nye Libert. This program repeats tomorrow at 10 o'clock following the VON News Minute. Join the Honorable Mark Brantley tomorrow evening at 8 o'clock for On The Mark. Thank you all again for joining us. This is your voice in the community. Thought that get results. You all have a wonderful evening.
And opinions expressed in the preceding program are solely those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of